Hey, what is going on, guys? It's AK47 here. This is going to be my first part in my two-part guide for my Season 7 solo queue tips. So with that being said, sit back, relax, and let's get right into the guide.
Okay, so this first one isn't even an in-game tip, but I promise you it's relevant. You have to be the smarter player before the game starts. So let's say you have someone on your team who's a Draven one-trick. He has, 500 games as Draven, and he actually does pretty decent as him, but you get AD carry and he gets something like jungle, which you can also play. Now let's say he's begging for AD carry, or he says he's gonna insta-lock Teemo. There's two things you could do. You could go ahead and play your AD carry, which you're decent at, or you could go play jungle, which you're decent at, and let him have the AD carry role. Now if you looked up his stats and he's actually a pretty good AD carry, I see no reason why you should take the role from him. And I know, you got the assigned AD carry role from the dynamic queue. But you have to ask yourself, do you really want to do what's best for your team and help you in the game? This is why I say to be the bigger person. Because at the end of the day, yeah, I know you want to play AD carry, but your team probably has a better chance letting this one trick do his thing instead of playing jungle Teemo and making you insta-lose. Now this second tip kind of goes against what a lot of people believe in, but it actually works. You have to practice a champion until you become that one trick that's the bane of your existence in solo queue. Now before I get a bunch of spam in the comments saying fuck you, you dirty Yasuo one trick, hear me out. Numbers don't lie, and it's been proven time and time again that people that play their own champion over and over are actually better at them. Now this doesn't mean you go and pick the same champion every single game even if you don't get your role and end up playing, fucking support Sion. Oh wait, Sion's actually the best support in the game. Just kidding. No, it means you practice a champion over and over until you know their ins, outs, and abouts, and every lane matchup. If you have your choice of a pick in a solo queue, yeah, you'll pick that champion. But if you're forced or auto-filled into support, no, you probably won't pick them. But you have to be careful when doing this. You can't just pick one guy and have no variety in the pool of champions that you play. Like, let's say you're a Kha'Zix main. If someone bans Kha'Zix, what are you gonna do? You have to have other champions that you play. Now, I'm not saying you should be the best at every single champion in the game, but you should have, 3, 4, 5 champions that serve the same role, but are different. So if you get banned or someone else picks your champ, you can still serve that same niche without getting fucked. Okay, now this third tip is to find what you're good at and stay with it. Now a good way of gauging your abilities is to every once in a while go on a stat website like op.gg. You should look up your highest win rates and your lowest win rates and see what you do well with that champion. If you see that you have over 200 games with Azir and are still at a 38% win rate, maybe you should consider playing something else. But hey, you scroll down a little bit and you see you have a 65% win rate with Gnar, maybe you should main top lane. Alright, the next thing you want to work on is abusing the meta. Now the meta is the meta for a reason. It's not because they're the champions that lose the most, it's because they're the champions that work the most. Going against the meta can work sometimes, but like I said before, numbers don't lie. So you should often visit websites like champion.gg to check to see what's working. Find the highest win rate champion, practice him some in a normal game, and then try him out in ranked, and if you do well, stick to it. Until it gets nerfed, of course, because we all know that's how Riot developers buff and nerf champions. Alright, now I know a lot of you may not be liking these tips so far, but these aren't tips for the most enjoyable gameplay. They're tips for how to rank up the fastest with the highest win rate. Now in this next tip we're going to be talking about something mysterious to most players known as MMR. MMR in League of Legends is a preset match-made ranking that every player has that doesn't show up on the front end of League of Legends. This means that if you're Silver 5, you may not be playing with other Silver 5 players. You may be playing with Bronze 1 or Bronze 2, depending on your MMR. If your MMR is higher than your division, then you're probably playing with Silver 3 or Silver 4, and so on and so forth. Now, because League of Legends isn't an open source application, there's no way for us to look at the raw source code to see how they do things behind the scenes. But I have received some help from a couple buddies of mine that still work in back-end engineering at Riot, and they provided me with some formulas they know are used to calculate MMR and rating. Now, some of you might not think this is important, but it's actually really important to know what your MMR is and how to manage it, because it's essential to ranking up in League, and I'll talk about that in the next tip. So one way to manipulate your MMR is to duo queue with a friend. Now, you have to be very careful about who you pick to duo queue with. The way that MMR is calculated when you duo queue with someone is that the sum of both players' MMR is divided in half and rounded to one standard deviation below the average of the newly divided number. Then this elo is assigned to both players, meaning that the higher rated player will be placed in slightly lower MMR and the lower rated player will be placed in slightly higher MMR, depending on how large the gap is between the players' divisions and MMR. For those of you who are less math savvy, all you have to know is that duo queuing with a player in a higher rating than you is probably better for you, and duo queuing with someone lower rating than you is probably worse. Nonetheless, after duoing with someone over and over, your MMR will eventually acclimate to theirs, as theirs will to yours. This is mostly effective in lower divisions, but it can still be done in low diamond to masters. Now, this last tip may seem less intense than the others, but it's just, if not more, important. If you're really concerned with ranking up, play what you're good at. Now, I mean this in the literal sense. Play what you do well in, and if you happen to not do well in those roles, play something that has a less detrimental effect on the game. So let's say you've been feeding for the past 10 or 15 games and it's caused your team to lose. Maybe you should try picking support or top lane that has a lower effect on the output of the game. This will mean you're more likely to get carried. Now, one method of seeing if you're in a good elo to get carried or not is to check your MMR on a website like op.gg. If your personal MMR is higher than your division's average MMR, it means that you're playing with higher skilled players than you're normally used to, which means you're playing with and against better players. If you're in a situation like this, it's probably better to play a less impacted role, like support or top lane. You can just play passive and hope to get carried by your team. I know this is not what a lot of people like to hear, because they usually want to carry themselves out of low elo, but if this is the case for you, you're probably better off playing a less impactful role. Like for those of you who watch Panzer Dragon, if you've noticed, he does much better when he plays a support role because his MMR is generally higher than his division, as he often plays with a lot of rank 1 players. So typically when he supports, he has a higher win rate. On the other hand, if your MMR is lower than your division's average MMR, like if you lost a bunch of games in a row or got demoted, then you're probably better off playing a carry role like mid or AD carry because you're playing with and against worse players, so you can't trust your team as much to carry you, and you know that you can carry versus the enemy team because they're lower MMR than you. Alright guys, I know this isn't your average League of Legends tip video, but I'm the type of person that really enjoys using math and statistics to help me solve everyday problems like these. These tips have really helped me climb quickly in League of Legends, as well as showed me to take a look at the game from an analytical point of view, which I think has ultimately helped me. If you guys like these sort of videos, let me know if I should keep making stuff like this. Anyways, if you guys do want to see more content like this, subscribe or leave a like. If this has helped you rank up in League, show a friend to help them understand the game better as well.